Hey Harold, how are you? I don't hear you.
Where are you?
Fortunately, in my office at home
Oh, there
in
you are.
Los Angeles.
There you are.
Yes.
Hello.
How
Hi.
are your travels?
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, all good.
How cold
Yes.
was it back east? Was it
It
unbearably
was
cold?
cold.
Cold.
It was very cold. I mean, there was a lot of snow on the ground. It was hard to
Oh,
park, you know.
yeah.
The bris was in Gizur of Kew Garden Hills, and
Oh,
we, I mean, it never gets plowed. It's just crazy. So finding, everybody parks at an angle. It's like 10
yeah.
days after
Well, I'm
after the
surprised with the mayor there. You have a new mayor there. I'm sure he's doing a great job.
Yeah, well, he has no money. He's giving it all away, so he has no money.
To
There's
the
actually an
Jews.
article. There's actually an article. I didn't even know this. They actually hire people, snow removers with shovels, if you can believe this, besides the plows.
Oh,
And apparently, they usually hire like whatever, 100, and
yeah.
he only hired like 40. So I don't know that that's the reason. Whatever,
They work
whatever.
for the city. They work for the city. The city
Yeah,
hires them.
they're hired on a temporary basis.
Yeah.
I never even knew that. I lived there. Apparently,
Oh,
that's what they do these days, besides all the plows, which I didn't see one.
no plow. Okay.
Yeah, it was 10. It was in Manhattan, it was fine. In Brooklyn, it was okay. And in Queens,
Yeah.
it's
Bad.
I don't know if you go back that far, but when I lived in New York, John Lindsay was mayor, and he literally lost the election because he didn't plow Queens. He got like 10 votes in Queens.
That was wow, back in the 70s, wasn't it?
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe
seven.
60. Yeah.
Also, Jane Byrne in Chicago. I mean, she's famous. She lost an election because the plows couldn't get out of the parking lot that was snowed
Oh.
in. And there was no snow removal in Chicago for like 5 days.
Oh, that's not
And
good.
this was like 5 days before the election. So she
Oh,
lost.
yeah.
Anyway, here we are
Yep.
in nice LA. All right.
I don't know if you realize they haven't paved any streets in LA for a year, and the budget for paving this year is $0. So enjoy
Okay.
the potholes.
Well, forget what about the street
Yes.
lights?
Oh, the street light, forget it.
Yes, there are no streetlights. Nobody has streetlights. They're all out
They
everywhere.
let people steal the copper. No one's been arrested for stealing the wires, and then they say there's no. It's unbelievable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the streets are pitch black.
Yeah, it's true.
I think we left off page 83, the Igros Moshe.
I think so.
Yes.
You think you're right?
Yeah.
He was going to give his opinion regarding brushes.
Yeah.
We were dealing with brushing hair, combing hair, the issue of pulling out a hair. So, bedover listro kasa'aros b'Shabbos. In the question of combing your hair on Shabbos, usher. Bein b'masrek shehu nikra comb. I love Rav Moshe used to lie. He would always write these words in English.
Yes.
So,
The word
rabbi,
for car for
yeah,
years and years was the Yiddish
machine,
spelling of machine.
the machine.
Mem, ayin, shin, yud, nun. Yes, he loved to do that.
And of course, rabbi, when he referred to a reform rabbi, he would say Reish Aleph Beis Yud.
Yes.
So he says you can't use a comb. Bein b'kli asui misar chazir, dehu nikra brush. Or there were these brushes that were made out of pig hair called a brush. Dehu nikra brush k'mefurish b'shulchan aruch sof siman shin gimel, which he said was usher. Upashut shu adin kishenase habrush mishar sa'aris. I guess the pig hair was considered the less stiff.
Soft.
Right. It was the less stiff. And therefore brushes made out of any, there would be no heter. V'rak l'takin ma'ata sa'aros mater Magen Avram. The Magen Avram quoting B'Shem Arivosh B'Kli Asui Misrach Lo B'Masrei. You could sort of light, I guess, with a brush, using the pig hair bristle, you can just gently sort of arrange your hair. Not full brush. And Rav Yitzchak Yosef prohibits any combing of the hair and writes that similarly one should not curl one's peyos on Shabbos. Ein ish l'salsel es peyosov. You shouldn't, do this. The koshkein shein l'shtamish l'tzorch ze beglilim. I guess curlers, yichodim l'kach, that I never saw. V'amek l'salsel peyoshem kvar mesulsolim. Yesh lo mi sheyismo. Peyot that are already curled, and you're just going to curl them more, he says that's not a problem. Also, mirabonali start with masrik b'Shabbos, you can't comb your hair. With soft bristles, you can brush your hair. Rav Mordechai writes that even if a woman needs to go to the mikveh Friday night, where there's an issue of combing your hair, because if you have knots, that could be a problem with chatzitza. She should not comb her hair once Shabbos has begun, and should merely separate the hairs by hand. Isha shalel tfilas bel Shabbos, and she forgot v'lo yistarkel lifnei Shabbos, or she starkel lifnei Shabbos v'sa'arosei ishtabchu. She combed it before Shabbos, but it got clumped. Ha'im mutar lo listarkel Shabbos kedei shukcha litfol. Can she comb her hair? Shuva, tifsafes be'etzba oseha, just with her fingers, not allowed to use a comb. Is combing a sheitel forbidden on Shabbos? There's no issue of pulling out hairs from the scalp, since they're no longer attached to a living being. Some note that this may violate a rabbinic form of soser, destroying. The Ramah writes that one should not brush clothing with a broom, since some of the bristles may break off. Also, don't brush your clothing. I guess there were brooms made out of wood chips. They were concerned that you would break the broom. Mishnah Berurah explains that one should also not use a broom whose bristles may break off, since both of these constitute a rabbinic form of soser. You can't sweep the house. We talked about that if it was tiled, there might be a permission, but you cannot do it. If you're going to use a broom made out of tried tree branches, they don't bend. They break. When you sweep. It's like you're breaking a kli. Means he's saying it's going to end up sort of being a destructive thing, not a constructive thing, so that you're not going to be chayav a kores. But they made a gzera not to do it. Shmir Shabbos Kol Chassid therefore recommends using only a soft-haired brush, preferably one used only on Shabbos, to ensure that no hairs are pulled out. We're talking about brushing a sheitel. Nachon limanim misrikas pe'an nochris, sheitel b'Shabbos v'yontif. You should not comb the sheitel. V'muter hachlik es a sa'ara shel pe'an nochris be'ezras mavreshas balasayas rakos. You could use a brush with soft bristles. The tov shetiyah mechedes Shabbos. You should use the same brush, the same sort of Shabbos.
What is the importance of having one that's specifically designated for Shabbos? I mean, a soft brush is a soft brush.
Maybe that would just sort of confirm, because they know people are going to get mixed up, right? You designate a soft brush and you use it always the same time. I don't see any other svara.
Yes.
However, Rav Yoshev, Rav Mordechai Willig, both allow brushing a wig on Shabbos, since removing hairs is unintentional. It's not a psik ratio, it's not definitely will occur. It's not beneficial to the wig. So That's a very strong heter. What about braiding hair? We saw that Rabbi Eliezer Chachamim dispute the halachic status of a number of actions related to gozes. In the same Mishnah, Masechta Shabbos, Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim disagree with respect to braiding hair and applying makeup. V'chein hagodeles, that's the Hebrew term for braiding. V'chein hakocheles, that's makeup from blue, right? Their main, the kachol is blue, and the kochelet, it was a blue eyeshadow that they used. V'chein apokeses, that's, you use blush to make it red. So Rabbi Eliezer mechayev. Rabbi Eliezer says it's a chiyuv midoraisa. Chachamim oisrim mishum shvus. Chachamim say it's a rabbinic prohibition. Now, which malachas are involved here when carrying out these activities? The Gemara discusses it, concluding that applying eyeshadow is prohibited due to the malacha of dyeing, soveya. Whereas braiding and applying blush are prohibited due to the malacha of building, boneh. Braiding, I understand why it would be boneh, because you're building something up. But blush, let's see. Godeles, braiding, kocheles, eyeshadow, upokeses, blush, mishumai mechayva. What is the source of the chiyuv? Omer Rav Avin, Rav Yosi, Rav Chanina, godeles mishum oreges. He held it was because of weaving. Kocheles is mishum koseves, writing. Pokeses mishum tov is like weaving or spinning. That's not the way we weave. It's not the normal way of writing. Do we weave this way? Is like color painting. I don't understand. We don't build a house that way. Yeah. When it says that Hashem took a rib from Adam and made woman, HaKadosh Baruch Hu braided her hair. Braiding in a different language is called building. Fine, that explains braiding, but why should pokeses, applying blush? So maybe that's...
Look at footnote 23.
Okay, Tosfos explained that braiding hair is just one example of improving the... I was going to say that when Hashem braided her hair, I guess he also gave her blush, and that was considered the same thing. Let's see what Tosfos says. Braiding hair is just one example of improving the appearance of a woman. Applying blush is also a violation of boneh, based on the same principle. That's the concept that Hashem made her look pretty. According to the other interpretations, pokeses refers to another form of adornment of the hair, and not to applying blush. And then it's similar to understand why it's considered binyan. Tosfos writes that since braiding hair is a form of boneh, albeit on a rabbinic level, it follows that unbraiding hair is also prohibited as a form of soser. If there's a prohibition to braid it, is clear. There would be a prohibition to undo the braiding. And that's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. In Orach Chaim Shin Gimel, also l'klo isha sara b'Shabbos. That's a beferish Shulchan Aruch. You cannot braid and you cannot unbraid. So the halacha seems to be like the Chachamim. The Mishnah clarifies that the prohibition involved is rabbinic because braiding resembles building. He adds that braiding the hairs of a wig is also prohibited, at least on a rabbinic level, based on the malach of oreg, weaving. Midrabanan, Mishum Dedami Lebinyan. Like we learned, Vayivan Hashem Elokim Esat Selah. V'lamet Shekila Kadosh Baruch L'chava, V'yilad Adam, Shkein B'krach Hayam. In the islands, they called Kliyasa B'niyasa. Continues the Mishnah Berurah. V'nei Kozeh B'mechuber. All of this is talking about natural hair. Say our pay nochris, but if you braid a wig, a faruk, shakorin faruk, af de einze bezemishum bone, osra kolpone mishum oreg. It would be probably because of weaving. The afim nema de ein sofal iskaim al it's not going to remain. Al kolpone mid rabbonim miu osra. Mikol mokum near the ein kedai limchos b'mokum shlo yishmalanu. Mishnah Berurah says, better not protest, no one's going to listen to us. Basically what he says. I don't really understand why they have to, I mean, if the whole issue is since HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he braided Chava's hair, it's considered building, so it was the same thing with a wig. I'm not sure why you have to come up with a different Isser. It's the same Isser. The Hilchos Shabbos quotes from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's ruling.
Maybe a wig doesn't have any life to it, so like hair has life to it, so maybe it's considered a boy. Yeah, a wig doesn't have anything to it.
No, but the poskim based this law on the drasha.
I know from a
Vayiven Hashem Elokim esat selah, v'lamet shekila Kodesh Baruch Hu lechava ve'vi eitzlodam.
I
braided Chava's hair, and that's called
right
because in the islands they call braiding building. So what's the difference if it's natural hair if it's the wig?
But because he braided from a living person, yeah, from Chava, he braided it for Chava. Yeah, you're braiding it for the wig. You're not really braiding it for the living person. I have no idea. Maybe that's why there's a chiluk.
So, Rav Shlomo Zalman is ruling that the prohibition against braiding hair only applies when braiding 3 or more sections together. Braiding 2 sections is permitted. Shamanu Magon Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Shisser Kliya Nemer Dafka Kishachol Kasar L'Shloisha Chalokim Yoter. They divide the hair into 3 and then they braid 3. Aval Tzama Asui Mishnei Chalokim. But if you did it and you made a braid from 2, that's not like pinyon. The Minchas Yitzchak Dayan Weiss clarifies that although the prohibition on braiding is derived from the braiding of Chava's hair, if it's common for men to braid their hair, it's also prohibited on Shabbos. Ayin Magen Avram, Alma de Isisham Osir Leisha Sheta'avir b'Shabbos Srak. You can't apply blush. The dafka b'isha shadarka b'kach. That's a woman, because that's her derech. Mashen can b'ish ayin sham. Since it's not the derech for a man to apply it, I guess it was an isser. Bimkein gam b'seif shachreza b'kliya, when he talked about braiding. Al korcha isha dafka. Amnam koza mishum de dafka nashim darkam b'kach. Avalecha di gam anashim darkam b'kach. If it becomes stylish for men to, they have to be braided, he said it would still be an Isser. Vav b'divrei Hashas, the Isser v'chiderech b'nim b'kach, and the Gemara answered in, Kiddush Roshim ben Lakish, ben Elazar, Malamit shekila Kodesh Baruch Hu l'chava, u'medivrei HaTosfos, the Kosvu Vinyan Nami Shach b'tikun ha'isha, that it is considered binyan when you fix a woman up. L'mayde mafaresh mishum bone, because then bone is shaykh there. Umayse kra and the pasuk the vayiven esatzela ad kan l'shono haymash melchura the dafka betikun aisha. We might have thought that since the drasha is about chava, maybe it shouldn't apply to a man. Achei midivrei Rambam, the cause of ein godel meseir harosh. You cannot grow your hair long. I think this is reference to a man. Vein poixinoso. I'm sorry. In goidlin means you don't braid it. Vein poixinoso. I guess setting it around your head. You can't put makeup on. V'lo hiskar isha dafka, he didn't even mention gender. Muchach dein chiluk b'zeh. V'shatzu poski b'naki b'noshim, or chadimilsa nakti. The Chachamim and the Gemara understood that in general it's women, but it's not necessarily to rule out men. So a father may not braid his daughter's hair either. Rav Yitzchak Yosef quotes these halachas and adds that using hair curlers is prohibited, but bunching or tying hair together is permitted. Also, b'Shabbos. You can't make a braid. Not to undo the braid. You can't put curlers on. It's similar to braiding. You can sort of gather the hair together and fix it with your hand and tie them with a rubber band, right? Or with a band. Okay. I have to tell you, there's a Nefesh B'Nefesh meeting tonight, and Susie is attending on our behalf, the two of us, because we're working through Nefesh B'Nefesh in planning our Aliyah. So that's why Susie's not here. But I'm sure Susie is happy not listening to all these halachas. What about parting here?
I'm sure of that.
I
So
tell
far,
you, I learned more about braiding and curlers than I ever knew from these halachas. Now I know.
So far, we have seen that combing hair and braiding hair are clearly forbidden on Shabbos. Can you part your hair? So Rishonim disagree. The Mishnah Masechta Shabbos lists various items of jewelry, which Chazal prohibited women from wearing on Shabbos, out of concern that when we remove it to show a friend, and you're going to inadvertently carry it in the public domain. One of these items is an eyeless needle. A needle with an eye is designed for sewing, and not as jewelry. And as such, wearing it in the public domain is considered carrying and biblically prohibited. But this is a needle like a tachshit needle for like decoration. With more questions, what is an eyeless needle used for? And concludes that during the week it's used for parting hair. But on Shabbos, a gold plate at the end of that needle served as an ornamental purpose. It's like a pin, hairpin. Right? B'Shabbos l'may chaziyah amarav tas shel zov yesh al rosha b'chol. There was a gold plate on the other end of the needle. They used it during the weekday to part their hair. Cholekes basar b'Shabbos menichasa keneged padachta. They would put it near her forehead for ornamental purposes. The Gemara clearly implies that we're not for the gold plate. Wearing the needle in the hair would be prohibited on Shabbos. Rashi explains this because there's no other use on Shabbos, as parting one's hair is prohibited on Shabbos. Right? B'Shabbos l'may chaziyah b'Shabbos ein cholek asara. So they had to come up with an ornamental reason. Tosfos argues that there's no source to prohibit parting one's hair on Shabbos. Rather, even though parting one's hair is permitted, this use alone would not permit a woman to wear this needle, were it not also to function as a tachshit, as jewelry, to beautify her. Right? L'may chazi. Shabbos l'may chazi. Nehish regila l'noisa b'shvil shetzrich l'chalek b'asara b'Shabbos. Normally, she uses it to part her hair. B'Shabbos tevi masui, but it would be a burden to carry it. Kivadeta lo malbush v'lo tachshit. It's not clothes and it's not a jewelry. Look at the footnote. While carrying in the Rishus HaRabim, it's prohibited on Shabbos. While carrying in the Rishus HaRabim, it's prohibited on Shabbos. Wearing clothes or jewelry is not considered carrying. Although there were some jewelry that Chazal prohibited out of concern that they'll remove it to show a friend. However, this applies only to items used to protect or adorn a person. Items used for other purposes are not considered clothing, but they're a burden, a masui, even if it's affixed to the body or hair, and carrying them in the Rishus HaRabim would be biblically prohibited. We'll discuss this later. So Tosfos continues with a kuntris in Rashi, Perish Pesomich B'Shabbos, what is it used for on Shabbos? Lamei Chaziv, Elo B'Shabbos, and Cholek Asara, V'Kasher L'Ri, Chad Hamana Le De Asr L'Chalek B'Seir B'Shabbos. The Ri had a problem. Where do you see that there's an issur to part your hair? V'od, Demai Parich, V'Al Asr Afilu Yeh Mutter, Tikshev Amasayu. It would still be a problem, even if it's not used for a part, because you're carrying it. But the Shulchan Aruch rules leniently, in accordance with Tosfos. However, the Ramos cites the stringent approach of Rashi, and writes that Ashkenazi practice is to be stringent, except when parting the hair by hand. Also, you're not allowed to part your hair. Also, not to undo the braid. She can, with her hand, part her hair. I'm sorry. Shulchan Aruch held you can part the hair. But there are those that prohibit. When they're, I guess, arranging the shaitel. And the minig is to prohibit. But with your finger, the minig
If
is
you look at the footnote, shaitel just means parting the hair. 28.
in this context, the word shaitel seems to refer to making a part in the hair.
Today, the word is often used to refer to
to make the part. Interesting. Okay. Here we get to a big subject, makeup. One of the primary malachos listed in the Mishnah in Masechta Shabbos is being prohibited on Shabbos is the malach of tzoveya, coloring. We talked about this. We talked about coloring food. This malacha was necessarily during the construction of the Mishkan, as the wool used for many items was dyed blue, tchelis, or argamon, purple, or red, tolas shani. As with other malachos, only permanent coloring is prohibited biblically, while coloring that does not last is prohibited midrabanan. That's explained in the Rambam, Hilchos Shabbos. Hatzovea chut, if you dye a thread, she'arko arba tfachim, the shear that you're going to be over is if you dye a thread whose length is 4 tfachim. A tefach is between 3 and 4 inches. So you're talking about anywhere between 12 and 16 inches. So a foot and foot and a quarter. Odover shefshar litvos mimenu chut kazeh chayiv. Or any kind of thread that you could spin with a spinning wheel. You're not chayiv kares or chatas, if you did it b'shogeg, unless it was permanent coloring. Klal, kigon she'ever srak, you apply red clay, or sheshar al gabi barzel, or nechoshes on some kind of coloring on iron or copper, and I guess this could be cleaned off. Tzava potter, shrei atam avir l'shaytov v'netzoveh klum, can be removed. The kol shein melachto miskayemes b'Shabbos potter. If it's not a permanent, if it doesn't lead to some kind of permanence, it's not osur on Shabbos. We saw in source 29 that applying eyeshadow is rabbinically prohibited on Shabbos, based on the malach of tzoveya. Although according to Rabbi Chanan al Rambam, applying eyeshadow is prohibited due to kosef and not due to tzoveya, the Rambam agrees that applying rouge to the face is prohibited due to tzoveya. So he makes a difference between eye makeup and this, rouge on the cheek. The Sefer Yereim explains that this prohibition only applies to a woman coloring parts of her body that are usually colored, but not to a man coloring his mouth or hands. Tzvias pi v'yadav, ein b'chshash ein tzviya la'adam shedarko litzvah. A man doesn't put these, on your mouth or on your hands. That's not a place where you put color. Lo makri tzviya klal. It's not an isser. V'adatanya b'matzni Reb Shimon Elazar Omer Reb Shimon Eliezer Isha lo tav yisrak al paneh. A woman cannot put rouge on her face, mishum shetzovas, hayi kagon shederech tzvia mikri. It's normal for a woman to do that. And the Shulchan Aruch rules like that. Asr li'isha, shetavir b'Shabbos rak al paneh mishum tzovea. Umitam zasur lichol b'Shabbos. She can't apply eyeshadow on Shabbos. Mitam zasur latuchal paneh botzeit. They used to put dough on her face. Kishinotatum madim abasar, because when they removed the dough, I guess it would give some color. The Magen Avraham provides the explanation given by the Sefer Yereim and clarifies that the prohibition that we're talking about here is rabbinic. Ishum tzoveh kiven shedarka b'kach mekrit tzoveh ashen kim beish k'mo shekasavnu sof shem and shamim mikol makom eina el midrabanan. It's normal for a woman to do this, but not a man. The Nishmas Adam explains that no biblical violating is involved because the color is not permanent. Or the Avnei Nezer Minchas Chinuch argue that rouge lasts for long enough to be considered permanent, but they are unable to provide an alternative explanation as to why the prohibition is merely rabbinic. Contemporary poskim write that the Melach of Tzovea applies to using lip balm, lipstick, or applying makeup as well. The Shmir Shabbos Kolchasa adds that even applying transparent lipstick is prohibited. He also writes that it's proper to refrain from using even powdered makeup that does not adhere well to the skin. Shmir Shabbos, also litzvo esas vasayim, you can't paint your lips. Chadoma b'Shabbos v'yontiv. Gama mayutzvos kfar mibodyom, even if there was already color on it from Erev Shabbos. Gama shimush b'safton shakuf aser, even colorless lipstick. Asura isha lishtamish b'Shabbos v'yontov b'podra, powder, afkas ifur, mureves b'mishcha, mixed with either cream or b'podra sabon or soap. V'afnachon shalot says poderes ifur ala panim. You can't put this kind of makeup powder on your face. Even if it does not stick well. He explains that in the footnote that using hard lipstick is prohibited due to molid, and using soft lipstick is prohibited due to marachek. And lip balm, poskim assume it has the same status as lipstick. Shmir Shabbos quotes the Ktsos HaSholchan, who writes that if the color does not adhere to the surface being colored, it's not a violation of tzoveh. But Rav Moshe was only lenient if the powder is thrown on and doesn't adhere at all. And quotes Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is questioning even that leniency. Says Rav Moshe, he permits throwing powder onto the face, as the color will not last. She can't put color on her face, midin tzvia. Avalizrok is a powder, but I guess to throw white powder ala ponim shalom iskaim klal ein bezeh isur tzvia. The Rambam writes that one who colors in a manner that does not last is exempt, but it would still be forbidden Mirabanan. Rav Moshe likely believes that this refers to a case where the color remains at least for a short time, but if the color fades or disappears immediately, coloring in such a fashion would be permitted. That's how he reconciles this Rambam. Rav Ovadia Yosef permits the use of powder entirely, even when it's colored. He says we have the Shulchan Aruch who's machmir. He says you cannot add to the prohibition by saying powder that doesn't last at all, that should be permitted. It doesn't stick. Like rouge, rouge and lipstick stick, but I guess this powder doesn't stick. You can use colored powder. You shouldn't. You got to make sure it doesn't have cream in it, because we're going to have this problem of mamachek. We're going to see cream soon. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu permits the use of powder that lasts for 24 hours. Can you put powder on your face, lipstick on your lips? The podra regila hikilu. He said with regular powder, the poskim were lenient. It's temporary. It falls by its own. Also powder that's going to last for 24 hours would be prohibited. Mikevan, nechshav davar kavua. Odem, rouge, asr lasim asfasam. You can't use lipstick. Midin soveh, midin kosev, a number of mlachos. Coloring, writing, v'tzarech mod lizar b'zeh. Chobal tzarech lehavas isha gam below ifri. He says, every husband should love his wife even without makeup.
I have to tell my wife that.
We got a little musser along with the halacha. Rav David Heber of the Star K discusses some of the leniencies and explains that even if one wishes to follow them, specifically Rav Moshe's, Feinstein's opinion, one must adhere to certain practical guidelines. Rav Moshe Feinstein was of the opinion that one may use powdered makeup that is not long-lasting. And that, therefore, circumvents the problem of tzoveya. This powder is commonly known as Shabbos makeup. Rav Moshe only allows the use of certain powders that have been carefully tested to ensure that they are not long-lasting. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach disagrees, opines that all makeup may not be applied on Shabbos regardless of how long it lasts. This opinion is more widely accepted by poskim. According to Rav Shlomo Zalman, all makeup, even Shabbos makeup, is forbidden to use on Shabbos. One should consult a Rav to determine which opinion one should follow. To conform with Rav Moshe's ruling, Shabbos makeup may be only used under the following conditions. Tested. It has been tested by a reliable Rav or certifying agency to confirm that it is temporary enough to meet Rav Moshe's standards. The product that one wishes to use on Shabbos must be specifically endorsed by the Rav or certifying agency. General statements should not be relied upon. Dry face. One may not apply makeup onto a wet area because the makeup will last too long. Therefore, before applying makeup, one's face must be dry and clean. When using Shabbos moisturizer, which is specially prepared and approved for use on Shabbos, one must wait until it has completely dried before applying Shabbos makeup. Mixing. One may not mix cosmetic colors because of tzoveya. Therefore, a separate brush must be used for each color. One may not apply Shabbos makeup on top of non-Shabbos foundation or makeup that was applied before Shabbos. However, one may apply Shabbos blush on top of Shabbos foundation or reapply Shabbos makeup over existing Shabbos makeup that is the same color. Loose powder. According to some opinions before Shabbos, one should remove the makeup from the cake, break it up, and use this loose powder on Shabbos. Let us return briefly to the issue of lipstick. Specifically, if applying lipstick is forbidden, should one also be forbidden to eat foods that color the lips? I mean, you have davar shein. I mean, you have no kavana, so it's melacha. It's davar shelo miskavein. Could be a psik reisha, but most people don't want to have a colored lip, so it would be the lo echpas. It would be the lo nifalei. So the Shar Tziyun addresses this and clarifies that even women who must act more stringently with regard to coloring, according to Sefer Yereim, may eat food that colors the lips, since any coloring is unintentional. Kol makom nir de gamisha muteres lechol tutim cherries ushar peres atzovim de dafka b'srak al panea. Makeup is derech tzviyas l'noi. That's the normal way for cosmetic purposes. Masha enkein bachilas tutim shapsik reishu raklis faseha. It's just odd. It's going to happen on the lips. The woman will recognize that that's not the normal way of coloring. And there's no difference between man and woman with that. The Hilchos Shabbos writes that removing makeup is permitted on Shabbos. In a footnote, he explains that although erasing writing is prohibited under the melacha of mochek, there's no separate melacha involving removing color. Mutter leisha lahasir formal paneh. A woman is permitted to remove makeup, ayidei rechitza, to wash it. Mutter lahotzi laka mitzi porneha. You can remove the nail polish from her nails.
Lacquer. I wonder if he means lacquer.
Yeah, laka, mitzi pernal yedei chomer miyuchad lekach. Even if you're using some kind of liquid that removes it. Only by writing do we have a malach of erasing. There is a malach of coloring, but there's no malach of getting rid of the color. Now, something that may be more relevant to us men, like creams, particularly sun, for the sun. Can you apply oil or cream to one's skin? The Mishnah Masechta Shabbos permits rubbing oil onto one's body, even if one is experiencing pain, as it's normal even for healthy people to spread themselves with oil for pleasure. Now, medical treatments for minor ailments are rabbinically prohibited on Shabbos, out of concern that one may grind ingredients. We'll have a later volume where we'll deal with, medicine, what's permitted on Shabbos and not. By the way, Rav Doron told me that there's Hilchos Shabbos is going to continue through volume 24. Tzurba is going to have 31 volumes. So from volume 25, there's going to be Even HaEzer, Chuppah, Kiddushin, Gittin, to the extent that they're going to teach us. I'm sure we're not going to go through every siman of Even HaEzer. But we'll see. And there will also be, I think, he didn't tell me exactly, I think there's 3 for Even HaEzer and 3 for Choshen Mishpah.
That's it? You're just going to stop after that?
31.
After 31?
They're going to complete the Shulchan Aruch.
I guess, okay. Very interesting.
He said he said maybe 32. I guess they have outlines and they have people working on it. And again, maybe if it's, maybe it'll go into an extra volume, but that's what he told me. Now, we started Hilchos Shabbos, I think by volume, was it 14? We started Orach Chaim volume 8. Your Deya was the first 7 volumes. And then we started Orach Chaim, I think was volume 8. And I think we started Hilchos Shabbos volume 14. I think.
Yeah, 1 through 7 was Yoreh De'ah.
Yes.
Yeah. And 8 started the Orach Chaim.
Orach Chaim, right. So Achoshesh b'masnav, someone has pain in his loins. Lo yisoch yain v'chometz. You shouldn't anoint yourself with either wine or vinegar. Aval sachu es Hashem, and you can use oil. One may not use oil to seal an opening in a barrel due to concern that one will come to violate the prohibition of mamarech, smoothing. But that's only thick oil. All agree that one may spread regular oil, which is liquid, on any surface without concern for mamarech. The Shulchan Aruch rules accordingly. But the Ramah adds that this leniency does not apply if people only spread oil as a medical treatment. Hachoshesh b'masnav, lo yisach shemen v'chometz, aval sachu shemen levad. You can use oil. Aval lo b'shemen vered, not rose oil. Mishum demucha melsa de refuah kovet. That's clear that you're doing it medicinally. V'mu mokam shemotzu bo shemen vered, but if there's a lot of rose oil there, and it's normal for people to do this even not medicinally. I feel below refuah mutter. Haga the Ramah in a place where the only time you would anoint yourself with oil is for refuah, then b'chol shemen osir. So the Shmir Shabbos Kilchas, according to Shlomo Zalman, as ruling that spreading oil in order to prevent itching is considered a medical treatment. It's therefore prohibited if it's uncommon to spread oil for non-medicinal purposes. If you're spreading oil the only kind of oil I can think of, we used to, when we went to Hawaii, there was something called Hawaiian Tropic, was a suntan lotion that was very oily, right? I'm not even sure there was oil in there. But that's what you know what I'm talking about? That it
It
was
was
a
very
brown
oily. Yeah, it was a brown, like a copper bottle.
copper bottle,
Yeah.
and that seemed to be oily.
Yeah.
But people don't apply that for medicinal purposes. I mean, they applied it they wanted to get tan. I'm not sure that would, I think that might fit. Again, it's not a very common thing. Anyways, creams. As well as the potential issue of medical treatment on Shabbos, spreading cream on the body may be prohibited due to the malacha of mamachet, smoothing. The av malacha of mamachet involves smoothing animal hides by removing hairs. But the Gemara Masechta Shabbos mentions two toldos of this malacha: rubbing hide between pillars to smooth it, and spreading cream onto a wound. I guess they would rub the hide between pillars. And if you did that on Shabbos, that would be a malacha. Then I'm a mark retir b'Shabbos. Let's say you had put a bandage on a wound, and you applied like ointment, some kind of cream, Neosporin ointment or cream. I'm a mark retir b'Shabbos chayv mishum amachik. Spreading cream on a wound, such that a smooth layer remains, is prohibited. Some creams are not designed to leave a smooth layer, but to be entirely absorbed into the skin. Are these prohibited? A potential source for permitting spreading creams that get absorbed can be found in the Magen Avram. He discusses rubbing saliva into the ground, which is prohibited under certain circumstances due to a concern that you may come to level the ground, which is a violation of the law of choresh plowing. He explains that the actual smoothing is not problematic, as one intends for the saliva to be fully absorbed into the ground. That means the issue of spreading and smoothing, you want that to stay there. But if the intent is to be absorbed, then it's not a problem. So the Mishnah Berurah rules in accordance with Magen Avram. Based on this, the Shmir Shabbos Kolchas, according to Shlomo Zalman, permits spreading creams that are absorbed into the skin, since there is no intention for anything to remain on the surface. So, moisturizing cream doesn't stay on your surface, gets absorbed into the skin. Most, anti-sun creams, it still doesn't, I guess some are thick and might, the ones that you see that there's a white, you could still see like a white cream on someone's face, that would be a problem.
Yeah, those have zinc oxide in it.
But the ones that we use you don't see them.
Get absorbed, yeah.
They get absorbed. So that lechora, there's a leniency for. Ayin das torsha b'daik b'loshna Magen Avram, shegam mashke mutulam roch. You can spread cream. Al kol ponim b'chol shein bos. Certainly, your chol shein bos akana. Heicha the kavanah salaviv if the kavanah is to absorb it. Umagan Shlomo Zalman arach shamati the b'marachet hamishchat shekula nimsa v'nivlas b'guf ha'adam. That if you spread a cream that's completely absorbed, lo mai cream mamarech, it doesn't fall under the category of mamarech. V'lo asar el kashamishcha nisheres. It's only prohibited if the cream, you see the cream, and you want to smooth it over the body. Rav Ovadia Yosef also permits spreading such creams, even for a person who is not sick. Rav Daniel Neustadt writes that many poskim do not agree with this more lenient approach, though even though allow relying on it in case of need. One may also dab ointment or cream on the skin without spreading it. Several poskim are of the opinion that spreading ointment on the skin is a violation of smoothing. While other poskim are not too concerned about this issue, most contemporary poskim follow the most stringent view and advise to avoid spreading ointment on the skin on Shabbos. The recommended method when using ointment on Shabbos, therefore, is to squeeze the ointment from the tube directly onto the affected area. When the ointment is in a jar, the ointment may be removed with one's finger and dabbed on the affected area. A bandage may then be placed over the ointment, even though this may result in spraying the ointment. If for some reason the above option cannot be used, some poskim permit to spread ointment on the skin, provided the ointment is absorbed into the skin and nothing remains on the surface. According to this opinion, smoothing applies only when some substance remains on the surface and is then smoothed down and leveled. It does not apply when all the ointment is absorbed and nothing remains externally. The Pnine Alocha, where Eliezer Malamed writes that even if one does accept the leniency to rub cream or ointment fully into the skin, it does not apply to creams whose purpose is for enjoyment or for beauty, as one does not want those creams to be fully absorbed because you want them to show. Aval krem shenoed lana yofi, a cream that's being applied for pleasure or beauty. So ein rotzim shiv lagamri, the user doesn't want that to be absorbed. Ela rotzim shisher mimenu gam al pnei or, they want it to remain. Kedei lachliko, to make it smoother, uliachosov lachein oser lemorcho, you can't use it. So the prohibition against spreading only applies to creams with a degree of thickness. We saw in the previous subsection that oil may be spread on the skin, and the same applies to other liquids. The question of using liquid soaps on Shabbos and their viscosity level was discussed in the previous year. Some poskim, such as Rav Nachman Rabinovich, are lenient concerning thinner lotions for similar reasons. Accordingly, the Shmir Shabbos Kol Chosor permits using liquid deodorants, including spray. Those stick deodorants are forbidden. You can apply liquid insect repellent to get rid of insects. It's even for an adult. You can use a spray. Deodorant. You can apply deodorant. Even if it produces smell. Deodorant nozli, you can use liquid deodorant. And bagbuk, that's in a bottle. Sheberosho kadurit, it's a roll-on. But not if it's a cream. Be'even mineralis. It's some kind of liquid mineral stone. Don't know what, it must be something Israeli. The Hilchos Shabbos summarizes many practical applications of these halachos, including that if one needs to use cream on Shabbos, one should place it on the skin without spreading it. Rubbing oil on the skin is permitted, and one should not use lip balm or stick deodorant. Don't spread cream. If you're a chola, and you're allowed to use some kind of cream, just put it on the area, but don't spread it. Just put it on the wound. You can squeeze cream from a tube. You can put it. So the squeezing from the tube is not usher. Squeezing from a tube is not usher. You may not use moisturizing cream that is meant to prevent dryness. You can use oil, liquid oil, in a place where they didn't use that for medicinal purposes. You can't put facial cream on, like women do for beauty. Sifton, you can't use lipstick. Odem, alas v'sayin, bein kishesh but whether there's already or they're not. Uvein kashem shkufim. Mishum isra mareach, mishum isra, for two reasons. There's a mareach problem and there's coloring problem. You can't put moisturizing cream on your lips. Even if the cream is in a hardened state, you can't use it. You can't use like a roll-on hard that sort of evaporates on your body. You can't use insect repellent if it's made from a hard substance that has to be smoothed on. But we said you could use spray. You have pictures here, roll on deodorant, spray deodorant, stick deodorant, the insect repellent spray. Applying sunscreen on Shabbos should be comparable to insect repellent. The sunscreen in the form of a spray, we have all of those, all of us know that, or liquid would be permitted, while sunscreen in the form of a solid or cream would be forbidden. However, in cases of need, there may be room to be lenient with creams if one applies only a thin layer that can be fully absorbed in the skin. This is because, according to lenient opinions, we learned Rav Moshe, Marech does not include substances that are fully absorbed. Moreover, according to Rav Yosef, it may be permitted even if some of the screen is not absorbed. Okay. I think we'll stop here. Yeah, brushing teeth is a complicated issue, which we'll go through. And then next week we'll also talk about halachos of animals. I know a lot of people who have pets. Well, first, before we talk about pets, we're going to talk about trapping and hunting. Not too many of us do that, but I don't think.
did last week.
What was that?
Yeah, I had a squirrel in my house, so I had to hunt it.
Okay, any comments, questions?
Lucky the ladies were not here tonight.
Okay, so just for Daf Yomi tomorrow is at 7. Next week, what is better for everyone? If we had to move it from one time from a Tuesday night, is it better Monday night or Wednesday night?
Monday for me.
Say it again.
Monday for me. I have another
Okay.
share Wednesday that's not recorded.
Harold, is Monday night okay for you?
Next Monday, yeah.
Yeah. Mario, Chaim, Abe, Monday night is good?
Monday night is fine.
So next week we'll do Monday night because Yavna's having a program Tuesday night next week.
Okay.
Okay. And then those that are in the Megillah Shir will be Motzei Shabbos, 8 o'clock. We're going to finish the Megillah.
All right.
Shkoyach.
Yeah.